Now, what we're seeing in the post-conciliar church, I mean, because in the pre-conciliar church, it seems like really beginning with, I don't know, 4th, 5th century, we start to see some speculation about this concept of limbo for infants. And it becomes pretty popular in the Middle Ages. But what we see in the post-conciliar period is now there seems to be an opening up to the idea that there could be hope that such infants would see God in the beatific vision, that is, that they would experience God in heaven. Is that a rupture with the past?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think it could be considered it depending on the reasons given. I think if there's, yeah, to answer your question simply, I don't think so. I think that could be there could be in my opinion, a sound development of doctrine here. Even as the Middle Ages was a development of previous stuff, because the previous teachings were even more strict. Like the development to limbo was actually a less severe a theological school of thought than many of the thoughts previously, some of which held that the infants would actually suffer. And that's where, Aquinas and others like, no, there's not suffering. Right. It's in fact, it's perfect happiness, just doesn't have to be a division. So to answer your question, I don't think so. I don't think there's a development. I don't think there's a rupture. I think there can be a development, provided that we hold to the principle that if one is an original, so two principles. One, if one dies in a state of original sin, and this is dogma. Yeah. If one dies in a state of original sin, one cannot see the face of God.
Right.
But notice there's that big if.
Sure.
If.
Sure.
The question is, does this given child who died by miscarriage, or this child who was killed in an abortion, or any other person who died before the use of reason, but wasn't baptized, did that person die in original sin? Because that's where the other principle that comes in, that God can, if he so chooses, work outside the sacramental system, as he did in the Old Testament days. I mean, John the Baptist was sanctified in the womb prior to baptism, without sacramental baptism. So as long as we stick to those principles, then I think we're okay. And maybe even more than that, the reason why this is such an issue, especially in our day, I think the big reason is because of abortion.
Yeah.
Because there's so many children whose lives are being taken through abortion. Obviously, many children die through miscarriage, natural means as well, but abortion is kind of the new phenomena, at least in terms of the mass numbers, right? It's mass murder of children right now. And that becomes a huge pastoral question for many women and men who are repenting, like, what happened to my child? And so that's where we can reflect upon, okay, as the Catechism says, there is, though we don't have the certitude that baptism gives, okay, that's certitude, if a baby was baptized, there are reasons to hope. And the document from the International Theological Commission, as well as others, have given some theological bases for this hope that a child who died through abortion could still experience not just limbo, because any mother and father or anybody who cares about a child, you would say, okay, limbo, fine, that's great, okay, happy place, but I want my child to have the best. I want the beatific vision for my child, Francis, Mike and Amy, all the others, right? I mean, that's in the father and the mother's heart. So I think, to answer your question again, simply, I don't think there's a rupture, provided we stick to those principles and provide sound theological reasons for this hope. Short of, I don't see how we can get certitude like we could at baptism, but I think we could give sound reasons for good hope, or at least for some hope,
Yeah, the difference between certitude and hope is helpful. And so what you're saying effectively is that, look, Florence is talking about if someone dies in a state of original sin, then they do not see God in the beatific vision, they go to limbo. But the question is, do they in fact always die in a state of original sin? Is it not possible that God could, in an extraordinary way, give them the grace of the sacraments? It's ordinarily given in the sacraments, but in an extra sacramental way. Well, we don't know that with certainty, but we can hope that he does in some, or if not even all cases.
Right, yeah. And I would add this too, that for most short of baptized babies, there's a little baby I just recently heard of a family I know, little baby Pia. The poor little one died of a natural causes soon after baptism. She's a little saint, Saint Pia. You know, we can
Hmm.
pray to her. We
Hmm.
know. Short of
Hmm.
little ones like Saint Pia and canonized saints like Therese behind me. I guess beatified, although that's the question of whether it's infallible or not.
Sure,
But
sure,
short of
sure.
canonized saints and baptized babies, everybody else is like, well, we have hope. You know, I have a grandmother who, may she rest in peace, or Father Leo today, who lived a very good life. But my grandmother went to um, daily mass for like 90 years, from the time she was 13 to 102 when she died, or short of 102.
Mm.
Am I certain she's in heaven? No. Do I have a good hope that she's at least on the way? Sure. Same with Father Leo. So I think once we come to have comfort with the idea of there's hope,
Hmm.
and actually with the infants, there's even greater comfort in that the worst case scenario for these children is a place of natural happiness,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? The best case scenario with hope is they have the beatific vision. So anyway, I think that's important, maybe just so people can like kind of ease, like, okay, my baby is happy with God one way or another,
Yeah, yeah.
but I want, even if I want the best.
Yeah, yeah. Either a natural happiness and communion with God or supernatural happiness or communion with God. Either way, the baby is happy and not in pain and suffering and misery and torment.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
that's helpful.
Hey, thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit the like button and the subscribe button. God bless.